We're here with Joe Houston, the legendary saxophone player. And Joe, tell us about, when did you start playing that saxophone?
About 14. Played in a high school band.
In Texas, is that right?
Yeah.
Which high school did you go to in Texas?
Austin High.
Now, when you used to play with the big bands and all the groups in the LA area back in the 50s, do you remember one of the first places you ever played at?
I remember where I played before I made All Night Long. It's Blue Sax in the Valley.
Joe, you performed with a lot of different record companies, and you were with Combo Records, you were with Crown Records, you were with Craftsman's Records. How was that working with so many record companies? How did you enjoy it?
I got along real good with everybody. I always was easy going. I never was cocky, and I got along with everybody. That's why I had so many records out, because my records used to sell.
Joe, you know, they called you the wild man of the tenor sax. You played at so many great shows. Who were some of the bands that you can remember that performed with you at some of these concerts?
Well, Bill Haley in the Comets. I was on the show with them in New York City just before I cut All Night Long. Pat Boone was on the show also. And Bill Haley and the Platters.
Now, do you remember playing with Rosie and the Originals?
Yeah, played harmonica with Rosie. I remember when Rosie first came out.
You had a 45 that you did, and it had, which was really a unique 45. You had a 45 that had 3 tracks on each side. Do you remember that 45?
At the time, they made a mistake and put the 3 records on there, on Combo Records.
And that was Rock and Roll Party. And the 3 tracks that were on it was Rock That Boogie, No Name Rock, and Movin' and Groovin'. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
In 1953, you played at Almani Legion Stadium. Do you remember what bands played with you that year?
Well, I played with so many. First band I played with was Medallions. First band that I played with, Medallions. I played with everybody that was somebody.
How about on one of your 45s? Weren't the Platters on one of your 45s?
Yeah, the Platters sang on a record called Sticky Boom. Bug Graham, the manager of the Platters, he used Sticky Boom, and I cut that record for him.
Now, when you were performing at Almani Legion Stadium, do you remember what car you used to drive back in the day?
Well, I used to drive a 1950 Cadillac I had bought.
A 1950 Cadillac, and what are you driving today? What do you have out here in the parking lot?
Well, I got a 1960 Cadillac out there.
So you're still cruising in the Caddies?
Yes.
Now, back in the day when you would drive your 1950 blue Cadillac over to Almani Legion Stadium, did you go cruising later in that Caddy?
Yeah, I used to cruise all the time. I used to do a lot of cruising.
Where did you go cruising at? Which boulevards did you hit?
I was on just about every main street, Whittier Boulevard. I can't remember where Almani was listed, but I used to cruise right up and down the street from Almani.
Now, Joe, how many hits did you have, or how many releases?
I had about 150 records.
150 records.
Yeah.
And
45s.
a lot of 45s. How about albums?
I've recorded about so many albums, you know, but I had all 45s and they put them in albums.
I noticed back in the day, some of the albums were hi-fi and some were stereo. Is that right? So tell the viewers, what was the difference between the hi-fi and the stereo?
Well, it's different. Hi-fi was kind of like the record, a little faster. You know, my own records on combo with 45s. That's who I first cut All Night Long for combo records.
All Night Long was with Combo Records. I noticed that you also did a record or an album on the Limbo. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have that record out now with a company out of London, England. They just released it about a month ago. They sent me one of the records. I don't have it offhand now, but I do. I have the records when they send it to me. Limbo rock, you know. I had to recall the Limbo rock.
You had a Limbo 45 called Twistin' in Orbit.
Yeah, I made that during the twist.
1962.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever perform with Chubby Checker?
Yeah, in 1953, my first day with Long Beach, the Municipal Auditorium, when Chuck first made the twist.
When you used to go out on tour on the bus, can you remember some of the acts that you guys went out and performed at some of the various concert halls? Which acts were riding on that bus with you?
It's a lot. Everybody was riding on the bus. Everybody that was Huggy Boy and Eddie Torres.
Eddie Torres and little Eddie Marcial was with you?
Eddie Torres was a bus driver.
He was the manager of the Midnighters, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Rosie rode with you on the Rosie and the Originals?
Yeah, she rode with me, yeah.
The Midnighters, the Olympics?
A couple of times the Olympics was on the bus.
Now, did you perform also with the Platters, the Penguins, some of those groups?
Yeah, I played with everybody in the world at that time. I played with it because I had a hit record. I kept a hit record out. That's why I made so many records. I kept a hit out. Every 3 months I would have a hit coming out on 45. More records than anybody.
You made over 150 records. That is a record in itself. Joe, in 1960 at the Boulevard Theater, there was a memorable moment. There was 100 stars there. Huggy Boy was announcing, ladies and gentlemen, here's Joe Houston. And of course, Huggy's saying, where's Joe Houston? Tell us what happened.
Well, I was outside, and then I started blowing my horn from the inside of the theater, and Huggy Boy was looking for me. At the time, I was in the theater. He was looking for me. And so I had a packed house. Everybody, there was somebody was on the show.
So the crowd went wild. Huggy Boy didn't know where you were at. You came down the aisle playing that horn. The crowd went wild as you came up the aisle performing.
Mm-hmm.
What a memorable moment. I wish we could all see that. I've heard the stories about that event. Now, Joe, is there anything that's happened in your life and throughout your career that you would like to share with all of our viewers?
I played 50 years, and I had a lot of fun playing. I loved to play, and people used to enjoy me just like I loved to play, you know. All I can say is I enjoyed everything with the fellas, Bobby Lee. I played with everybody that was somebody.
They say you were the world's greatest saxophone player. Did you ever work with Louis Armstrong, or have you met Louis Armstrong?
I met Louis Armstrong. I worked with Herb Astor and Ernie Freeman. I had pictures made with Herb Astor down to Dolphins in Hollywood with Huggy Boy. Huggy Boy was on the picture, and I'm on the picture. Herb Astor was there, and Hunter Hancock was there. We were always down to Dolphins in Hollywood, Vernon and Central. That was like the meeting place where all the entertainers would be there on Saturday nights after they played their gig. Wherever they played, they would meet Huggy Boy there and be interviewed. I remember Huggy Boy was the first one to interview me on the radio with All Night Long he the first fellow to play all night long. I made all night long in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, when I first started rehearsing all night long. And then I cut it to combo records when I came here and recorded the record with combo records. And the record was a hit overnight. It was one of the biggest records in California. It was honky tonk all night long. And I had one called Blow Joe Blow. That was the first big record I made, Blow Joe Blow. So from then on, I didn't look back. I just kept making records. I recorded for everybody, just about with somebody. And I enjoyed everything I did. I never made a record that I didn't enjoy playing.
Do you remember your surf rockin' record, 1963? It was with Crown Records.
Yeah, I remember that. That record clear as a bell. I had made a lot of 45, and they'd put them all in the albums, you know. From then on, I started making records for everybody. But I went with Imperial first, Imperial Records.
Joe, back in the day when you used to play at Almighty Legion Stadium, did you cruise with any of the particular car clubs?
No, I never did cruise, but I used to play for a lot of car clubs during that time. I played for quite a few clubs, booked the bands, you know what I mean? And so I played with a lot of, I played with everybody. Everybody that was somebody, I played with them.
What are some of the countries that you performed in?
I played a lot in England.
You went to Germany, England.
I went to Germany, England.
You played in New York.
I played in New York, in the Coliseums in 1959. Recorded all night long in Philadelphia.
And Philadelphia was where we recorded all night long. Now, Joe, when you were living in the Los Angeles area, you were staying over on Central Avenue. What was the name of the hotel you were living in on Central Avenue?
Dunbar Hotel.
The Dunbar Hotel. How long were you living there?
I must have lived there a couple of years.
And that was close to the recording studios and the radio station?
Mm-hmm. Close to everything, yeah.
Dolphins in Hollywood. What used to take place at Dolphins in Hollywood?
Dolphins was a meeting place of entertainers. Was a top disc jockey in town. He was working for Dolphin. So that's why Huggy Boy was the first fellow to play all night long. And all night long was a hit overnight. We didn't know it was going to be a hit, but it was a hit overnight long.
So all night long was an overnight success.
It's still selling.
Joe, in 1955 and 1956, you guys performed at Scribner's Car Hop in L.A. with Art LeBeau. He was there, and he was working with KPOP in that year.
Yeah.
Did you perform at that drive-in?
Yeah, I performed, and then I played Art LeBeau's club. He had a nightclub called Art LeBeau's Club, and I played there for a long time. Me and Big Joe Turner. Don Julian was the house band.
Don Julian and the Larks.
Yeah, and I would be the guest 2 or 3 times a week. I'd be the guest that time.
Joe, it was a pleasure coming out to see you. We want to thank you for allowing us to come out here and interview you, and we're going to listen to that music. So thanks a lot, Joe, and thank you everybody for watching.
And I hope everybody remember Joe Houston.